Videos like these are made possible by viewers like you, who support the channel through Patreon, channel memberships, and stream donations. And don't forget to check out the Bad Weapon Rehabilitation servers at www.badweaponrehab.tf. Check the links in the description for more information, and let's get into the video. Minecraft hasn't exactly had the best reputation as of late. A lot of people seem to be fed up with updates taking so long to come out, only to skimp out on previously made promises, or just be downright underwhelming in general. And then people come along who get fed up with the people who are fed up with Minecraft, and then someone else comes along and is fed up with those people, and oh god, it's all spiraling out of control, someone please help me! Not to mention just a host of bizarre choices and arbitrary restrictions put in by the developers that end up creating a sense of disenchantment with the game. But speaking of disenchantment, I wanted to talk about one particular system in Minecraft that has not actually suffered from any of the recent issues the game has been facing, because it's always sucked. Enchantments were added to the game back in 2011, in the first full version of the game, 1.0, and if you can believe it, they were somehow even worse back then than they are now. You needed twice as many bookshelves as you do now. The 3 enchantments you'd get would be completely random level, so there was no guarantee you'd get a max level enchantment, meaning you'd just have to spam click until you finally found one, and if you did manage to finally find one and wanted to enchant something at full level, you had to spend 50 entire levels. Not just be at level 50 and spend 3 levels and some lapis the way you do now, nuh-uh. All 50 levels are just straight up gone. This dramatically discouraged players from getting anything besides the most basic low-level enchantments because frankly, it just wasn't worth it for anything higher. Especially because of one particular aspect of enchanting that stuck around for its entire duration. You have no choice in what enchantments you get, and you ultimately have no idea what your enchanted item is going to have on it, outside of one enchantment that you get a preview for. But of course, back in the day, you didn't even have this luxury. You'd get all wide-eyed at this incredibly rare level 50 enchantment, your tiny little child brain exploding with wonder at all the infinite possibilities that lie within, only to discover that it's Bane of Arthropods on your sword, because of course it is. Now, it's at least not as terrible, since both high-level enchantments and the materials they're being applied to are a lot more disposable, but the system as a whole is still just awful. I mean, really, just think about upgrading your gear in basically any other game. You click on the equipment you want to upgrade, and it tells you exactly what you'll get out of it when you do, oftentimes down to the exact percentage number of stat increases. And then you spend the necessary resources to do it. Getting a completely random upgrade seems like something that should be a player choice to make in exchange for costing something like fewer levels or resources. Kinda like in Hades, how taking a palm slice will randomly give one of your boons a level up, but they cost 1/3 the price of a full palm in Charon's shop. Or how taking a mystery boon from Charon's shop costs less than one where you know what god you're going to get from it. This is kind of what Minecraft does in the case of anvils, since you can choose what enchantments to put on an item in exchange for spending more levels at once, assuming you have the proper book or other enchanted item of the same type and enchantment. But it also isn't, because basic enchanting is still the main way you're expected to get enchantments on your gear in the first place, even if the system has been made largely obsolete by other methods. But here's a big fat spoiler, those other methods also suck. Let's break down how basic enchanting works right now. You get 3 tiers of enchantments that you need to be at a specific level in order to unlock based on the number of bookshelves you have surrounding your enchantment table. These are still random, but the 3rd tier will always have the highest level you can enchant at based on the number of bookshelves you have, up to a max of 30 levels for 15 bookshelves. This isn't bad. I don't think the enchanting table alone should give you the capacity for max level enchantments, so needing to grind a bit for bookshelves is a reasonable request for the player, and the resources required to get a lot of bookshelves are cows and sugarcane. These materials can be easily farmed at the player's base, but require time to do so, which encourages players to go mining or fishing or anything like that. Or it encourages other players to explore the world in order to find more of these resources more quickly. This is very healthy and beneficial for the game, as it encourages both kinds of players, the stay-at-home builders and the explorers, to engage with the game's systems in order to achieve their enchanting goals. And something else that's nice is that players who don't want to fully commit to the system can still benefit out of it from low level enchantments, and having level 1 enchanted gear is better than not having any enchanted gear at all. Of the 3 enchantment choices you have, the lowest tier 1 will cost you 1 level from your current level count, as well as 1 piece of lapis lazuli, then 2, then 3. As long as you have the maximum number of bookshelves, the third option will always be a level 30 enchantment, the highest level possible. Again, this is pretty good, and a huge improvement over the original system, where you basically had to re-roll for a level 50 enchantment over and over and over again, even if you had the max number of bookshelves, and it was really easy to skip right over it even if you did find it. Damn it! Once you place the item you want to enchant inside the table, it guarantees 1 enchantment that will be applied to the item, and you just have to kinda guess or hope that you'll actually get the other enchantments you want, if you get any other enchantments at all on it, which is not guaranteed, and if you get lucky enough to see that the guaranteed enchantment you've rolled is not one compatible with the one you want, you need to enchant another completely different item in order to refresh whatever enchantment you'd get on the item you actually wanted to enchant, and the whole process begins all over again. I feel like we lost the plot somewhere along the way. I think a lot of people just kind of accept the system being the way it is without really thinking about it too hard, because hey, that's just Minecraft, that's how it works. But you've got to ask the question of why does it work this way, and ultimately, what does it facilitate? And the answer to both of these questions is the same thing, it's just a fucking grind. Randomization can be a very fun mechanic. Hell, I just mentioned Hades earlier on, and that's a roguelike. Those games are all about randomization to a certain degree. A huge difference though is that a roguelike such as Hades is fast paced. Runs probably won't last you more than an hour even if you're just starting out and not blitzing through them at breakneck speed, and in that time, you get to pull the Olympian god gambling lever over and over and over again, while also making definitive progress and engaging with the game's systems in the meantime. A grind isn't always going to be a bad thing, especially as long as you get to accomplish multiple things at once. While looking around for sugarcane for your bookshelves, you might come across a new biome with a new type of wood that you don't have that would happen to look great for your next build. Or maybe you find some kind of structure or new resource to use, and you create a nice little feedback loop with that. But when it comes to actually enchanting, you could be several hours into your world before you finally get everything you need to really start enchanting, and in that time, you've been interacting with the game systems, exploring, building, farming, fighting, mining, and then you finally get started on enchanting, and oops, Bane of Arthropods, better go grind. Oops, try again, time to grind. Hey, I finally got an acceptable one, nice. Time to grind for another piece of gear. Oops, fire protection on my respiration helmet, back to the old grind. Is it any wonder the grindstone is the item that gets rid of worthless enchantments? What did Mojang mean by this? The randomization doesn't turn this into a fun game where you wonder what really cool thing you'll get, it turns it into a slog. The entire games industry has gotten really good at getting people addicted to pulling the lever, but Minecraft is the only game I know of that makes the process so tedious that 9 times out of 10, I'd rather just not participate at all. Imagine at the casino if you had to do 25 push-ups every time you wanted to pull the lever on the slot machine. They'd all go out of business. And then what would the American Indians build on their reservations? A water park? Actually, that sounds kind of cool. The entire game stops as soon as you need to enchant something, because leveling up through doing things like exploring or progressing just isn't worth it. It's even more of a time investment, and the more you explore, the less experience you can get from the world around you from things like mining. Meaning you have to go out and explore, or just expand your strip mine further and further each time. Should I need to spend the time it takes to get myself set up in a nice place with everything I need for general survival, and also get all the materials and levels required for max level enchanting, and also spend several more hours of my life building an ugly ass mob grinder right next door to my enchanting table so that I can pull the lever at a pace I still can't even describe as semi-reasonable? The funny thing is, one of the best places to build a mob grinder for enchanting is in the end. You know, the place you only have access to after you beat the final boss, where you'd think having high level enchantments would be pretty useful. But hey, at least the dragon gives you a lot of experience for enchanting, and all you need to do to get all that is go to the nether, get blaze powder, kill enderman, or farm enough gold to barter with piglins, get ender pearls, make the eyes of ender, walk around 1,000 blocks give or take in the right direction until you dig down and find the stronghold so you can open the portal and kill the dragon. I did that in one fucking take. So that's gotta be a more reasonable time commitment than a mob grinder, right? I mean, all the speedrunners do it in like 10 minutes. Am I insane for thinking this is way overkill for something that should be as fundamental as basic gear upgrades? And listen, you can say that fully enchanted high-level gear trivializes the dragon fight so you don't want people to have it by then, but the dragon fight is already trivialized by being easy as hell. And also by beds. The gambling aspect of enchanting isn't even fun because there are enchantments you will actively want to avoid, meaning there's a chance that the efficiency 4 pickaxe you got is actually Silk Touch. No fortune for you, even though that's the one you really wanted. I guess you'll have to roll again. Oh, sorry, you'll have to grind again, and then roll again. Isn't this fun? And Bane of Arthropods is absolutely infamous for being completely worthless since its inception. And just to add insult to injury, not one arthropod enemy has been added to the game since then. That was 13 years ago. That is older than the average age of a Minecraft YouTuber's girlfriend. I can appreciate the idea behind the specialist sword enchantments. The idea is that sharpness is a good all-rounder that deals extra damage to everything, but Smite and Bane of Arthropods deal more damage than even the highest tier of sharpness to their targeted mob group. The idea is there for a decent trade-off, but the mob variety isn't strong enough to sell the idea of making a specialized build, or even by having an extra sword take up a precious inventory slot. And with mobs like creepers, witches, slimes, endermans, and most mobs in the nether, as well as mobs in special locations like ocean monuments, and every single mob in the end, including the ender dragon itself, not having any kind of similar specialization, it kinda just makes everyone gravitate towards sharpness for general encounters, leaving the other two sword enchantments as traps you want to avoid. Though Smite at least gets some use because you can use it for undead mob grinders, which are fairly common, as well as for dealing extra damage to the Wither, which really benefits from being killed quickly and is immune to arrows for half of its fight. For Bane of Arthropods, there's 2 kinds of spiders and silverfish, and that's it. You can't even argue they're good for mob grinders because no one makes mob grinders of these things. If you could at least dual wield swords, like actually dual wield them, not just hold one uselessly in your offhand, then I could see Smite getting a bit more use. But as it stands, everyone just picks sharpness unless they're actively farming the Wither, or using an undead mob spawner farm. Fire protection on armor is also made especially laughable by the existence of netherite, which has a passive fire resistance built into it. And also by the fact that on helmets especially, the idea of mixing fire protection with enchantments that only work underwater is downright silly. And this enchantment, projectile protection, and blast resistance all fall into the same trap as the specialized sword enchantments. Why bother specializing and protecting yourself against one damage type when the general protection enchantment also protects you against that damage type extremely well as all the other kinds of damage? And on the subject of the enchantments themselves, despite this being a completely magic system with effectively infinite possibilities, I've been comparing it to basic gear upgrades for a while now because that's just how the system behaves. It's not that the enchantments that you want to get aren't useful. Obviously, dealing more damage, mining faster, and taking less damage are great utilities to have, but there's hardly any magic involved, and creativity is almost non-existent. It's mostly just number tweaks or extremely basic effects that you could arguably get from another system completely removed from magic. There's fire aspect on swords and flame on bows, which are ultimately just adding a DOT effect, unless it's raining. But you know, that's still pretty cool. I like fire swords. There's infinity on bows, but that's kinda just making your pool of ammo bottomless. It's not exactly magical or especially creative. Oh, channeling on tridents is pretty cool. Too bad it needs to be a thunderstorm to work and it's exclusive to an item with an infamously low drop rate. Better get grinding. Honestly, one of the few enchantments that I would describe as being properly creative and magical is Frostwalker. Turning the water beneath your feet into ice you can walk on is pretty cool. So naturally, you can't even get that from an enchantment table. You need to find or trade for a book for it, and then put it on your boots from an anvil first. So let's talk about anvils. I know that everyone has been yelling at me this whole time that you don't need to worry about pulling the enchanting lever as slow as molasses if you just use an anvil and enchanted books. And these people are correct. So, let's break down the process that everyone uses to make this as efficient as possible, shall we? So you need 31 iron to make an anvil in the first place. Honestly, not that tall of an order. If anything, that's pretty reasonable for what you're getting out of it. Then, you need the right enchanted book, which you can either get from enchanting books yourself at the enchanting table, which gives you a completely random selection of enchantments from the entire pool so long as they don't override one another, meaning you could end up with an entirely worthless set of enchantments or too many really useful ones on a single book, meaning you have to choose one thing you really want to enchant with your Sharpness 4 Fortune 3 Infinity book, but you're probably just going to get like 30 quick charge ones because let's not forget, you're still just pulling the enchanting lever, but this time with an even higher pool of potential useless garbage. That sounds kind of bad, so let's not do that. Enchanted books can also be found as loot in certain structure chests and from fishing, but the enchantments you get from them are completely random as well, meaning they suffer from the same problem as before, though those are the only ways to get certain enchantments like Frostwalker and Swift Sneak, so it's worth keeping in mind. That is unless you use the final method that everyone actually uses. Villagers. The fast-track way of trivializing everything in the entire game. Hey look, free bookshelves. That doesn't make the process of engaging with the game's core systems completely obsolete or anything. I'm so glad I was praising that aspect earlier. And I'm not talking about the villagers that will just straight up trade you enchanted gear. Those only come at the final stages of mastery with that villager, so they're much more of a time commitment. And honestly a much better way of balancing this whole system in regards to their presence in the game. Not to mention, once again, the enchantments you'll get are completely randomized, and once you get them, you're stuck with them. We're talking instead about the tried and true librarians. So what you'll actually do to get the enchantments you want is cut down the Amazon rainforest worth of trees, turn them into sticks, trade them to the Fletcher, build up a stockpile of emeralds through this and other trades, get a lectern, isolate a villager in a remote corner where he can't escape and no one else can find him, turn him into a librarian, check his trade, see that it's garbage, break the lectern, and slap it down again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until you finally get the actual fucking enchanted book you want. So you buy it with the emeralds, and put it on your gear with the anvil for a bit more levels worth of experience than you would spend on enchanting it normally, rinse and repeat, with incrementally increasing level costs, until you finally actually have the gear you want. Do you see what's going on here? It's the same damn thing. You're still pulling the lever over and over again, it's still tedious, it still takes forever, it still sucks, but the key difference is you don't need to spend resources in order to pull the lever. It's a lot faster, and once it's done, you always know exactly what you're going to get out of that villager for now and the future. And you actually, for once, know exactly what enchantments you're going to get on your gear without any bullshit surprises. These are the lengths that players will go through just to consistently get the actual enchantments they want. They will slog through the tedium of placing down a lectern in front of the same villager over and over and over again until they actually get what they want. They will build a massive mob grinder just so they can enchant reasonably quickly. And all of this for what ultimately ends up being a small increase on damage, mining speed, or durability, instead of anything actually interesting or creative. You know what that Sharpness 5 sword you spent so long grinding for actually gets you? This. A heart and a half worth of extra damage. It's actually pathetic. And this isn't even the worst of it. Because okay. Maybe you didn't get that Sharpness 5 book you wanted from the villager you spent 30 minutes slapping a lectern in front of. Maybe you only got Sharpness 3 from him. That's good enough, right? I mean, you got plenty of experience from trading with the other villagers. You can just upgrade the Sharpness 3 books into Sharpness 4, and into Sharpness 5 from there. Easy. Ooh, and it looks like you only got Unbreaking 2 from your other librarian you spent an hour in front of. Well, that's fine. Same thing, right? Combine 2 Unbreaking 2 books together to get an Unbreaking 3, stick that on the shore for Sharpness 5, and let's throw on some looting, fire aspect, and sweeping edge on that bad boy, and what the fuck is this? Too expensive? What the fuck do you mean too expensive? Bitch, I built a mob grinder, I'll be the judge of that! Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the amazing, the spectacular, Anvil level limitation. See, every time you apply an enchantment to any item, any additional enchantments will incrementally increase in cost. So let's say you put an efficiency 1 book on a pickaxe, that costs 1 level. Then you put another efficiency 1 book on that same pickaxe to bring it up to efficiency 2, that's now 3 levels. That's not just because efficiency 2 is being valued higher than efficiency 1. If you put an efficiency 2 book on that same pickaxe, it would only cost you 2 levels, assuming it spawned in as an efficiency 2 book and wasn't itself upgraded. The level and rarity of the enchantments alone don't dictate the value according to the game. It's the fact that you used an anvil to upgrade it in the first place. So if you think you're going to be some kind of smart guy and use a bunch of sharpness 1 books to upgrade all the way up to that sharpness 5, it's going to cost you 20 levels to put that book on a sword. And that's not counting all the levels you spent combining all those books together in the first place. Or, if you take the time to pull the lever enough times to get those 2 sharpness 4 books from a villager and combine those, you can get that same sharpness 5 sword with 6 levels. And far more importantly, you'll be able to apply far more enchantments to the sword than with the sword built up from several sharpness 1 books, since you won't hit the threshold for enchantments being too expensive. And this applies not just to adding or upgrading enchantments on an anvil, but also repairing an item and even naming it. This system is inexcusably bad. You want to know why mending, quite possibly the single most controversial and overpowered enchantment in the entire game, even exists? Because of this stupid limitation. Think about it. People would have absolutely 0 issues with throwing a couple of diamonds and levels into an anvil every few hours to repair their gear and keep their enchantments. That's well worth the resources and levels required, especially if it keeps them from needing to gamble for similar gear again. Hell, that even has a knock-on effect of balancing netherite gear. Netherite ingots are a lot harder to come by, meaning people would be more inclined to put those rare mending books on netherite gear, or even just stick with diamonds because it's easier to repair. And this also encourages more exploration to get those resources, instead of leaving late game players stagnating with perfect gear at all times. But because of this stupid limitation, people were once again forced to pull the goddamn lever on a villager over and over and over again until they got mending, completely invalidating the entire system of item durability. Also, you can avoid doing even more tedious mind-numbing grinding by just doing basic enchanting again once your gear breaks. If this ridiculous anvil limitation just didn't exist, then not only would we not need to spam lecterns at villagers anymore to get good leveled enchantments that didn't risk over leveling the anvil, since we could just combine multiple low level enchantments, but we also wouldn't need mending on every single thing we own, since we could just repair it without the fear of running into the same risk. The entire enchanting system is rotten to the core, but this right here is the poisonous worm inside that just makes it truly inexcusable. I find this all so bizarre because upgrading your equipment in a video game is normally such a simple process and an enjoyable one. Everyone likes seeing numbers go up. It's a simple transaction. We spend some of our time or take some kind of risk to collect resources that we trade into a system to make our gear better, so we can take bigger risks to collect better resources to make better gear, and so on. Minecraft is the most popular game of all time, and yet somehow it's managed to take one of the most simple and fundamental aspects of game design and turn it into a tedious grind that people put up with for what usually ends up being mediocre, if not outright worthless games. It's actually kind of fascinating in that aspect. If you ask me, I think the entire enchanting system needs a complete overhaul. Everyone would be much happier if they could spend more levels or resources just picking the enchantments they actually wanted, or at the very least knowing exactly what it is they're going to get, instead of seeing one appealing slice of a pie, when it turns out the rest of it is actually just made out of poop. Rerolls being free would also be nice. Or hey, how about you put another item into the enchanting table, and that guarantees an enchantment? Like you put a spider eye in there if you actually want Bane of Arthropods, put an emerald if you want fortune, a fire charge if you want fire aspect or flame, you know, make it feel magical and intuitive, like you're a witch throwing ingredients into a pot or something. Hell, make the resources required for guaranteeing enchantments require brewing them in a cauldron first. That would give those an actual use. And maybe if you do want to spend less levels and use less resources, then you can only put in the lapis and that'll let you do it the old way. And even with this new system, anvils would still have their place for not only tier 5 enchantments, but also for books that can only be found through non-enchanting means. Just please, for the love of God, get rid of that stupid level limitation. Hell, even if you made the system work the same so levels incrementally increase with each upgrade, at least just remove the cap. People would be more than willing to spend those 50 levels that enchantments used to cost if it meant that they could actually know what it is they're getting and keep their old gear. Oh, and also repairs should be a flat rate, they shouldn't increase the cost at all. These changes alone would make enchanting a far more manageable system without even considering adding new creative enchantments. I mean, come on, enchanting has such a cool vibe around it, with the floating book and the runes and shit. I want to place my table at the top of a giant wizard's tower being surrounded by bookshelves, lanterns, and brewing stands with potions in them, as I channel the life essence of beings I've slain and the very earth itself into my blade. Whoa, what did you get from all that, oh great wizard master? Like, 3 extra damage? A bit of extra knockback? Actually, I don't know if I really like the knockback. Let me try that again. Bane of fucking! All I want to do is just slightly extra damage. I want to do a big ass AoE of chain lightning that zaps all the enemies around me. I want to fire off explosive arrows that deal damage in a radius. Hell, how about a pickaxe enchantment that makes the blocks gravitate towards the nearest chest if you have no room in your inventory? You know, something whimsical and magical and cool that makes me feel like a damn wizard and actually makes all the stupid ass effort feel worthwhile? I want those 30 levels to feel worthwhile, you know? But enchanting has received very minimal changes since it was added all those years ago. And unless we see some big changes with it soon, as far as I'm concerned, it's going to remain Minecraft's worst system.